Welcome back.
It's like we never left.
I know, well, it sure felt that way this morning. All right, we would like to start with 2.14, which was our proposal to, we accept taking out the word sex and the last
Being in the
paragraph. So,
policies.
yeah.
Okay. So do we have a, because we were
I
just
don't have a
throwing that
clean
back. Yeah, I
copy.
know, we were throwing that back and forth across the table. Yeah. Hold on. I'm not sure we have one that actually says that on it, because we were throwing the ideas
Yeah.
back and forth across the table.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
I just have this one. It's clean. but
Why don't,
Yeah, we'll have to.
we'll get one.
Yeah.
and Take a break.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
perfect.
we'll have some caucus time.
Thank you. All right.
So then I'd like to revisit our proposal number 7, which was the special education stipend proposal. And I just kind of want to start with a few comments and questions and just to clarify, but I
Okay.
have to take my glasses off to see the screen, and then I'll have to put them on to see you
I
guys. So.
understand.
So I really needed time to sit and think about the discussion we had last night regarding special education teachers having to work over contract time to complete legally required IEP paperwork. I went back and I watched the YouTube video, which I hate watching myself, but just to, because sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't hear what you think you hear one thing, so I went back. So I asked at one point, what do I tell the teacher that knows she has 75 hours of IEP work on top of teaching 114 students and is not getting a stipend? And the response I got was a detailed accounting of the financials of the district. I asked, what is the district going to do if these teachers then stop working off contract time?
My response was they will still work because these are good professional.
Right,
Yeah.
and so basically what we're saying is to those teachers that we know that you're such a good person, you're gonna work for free for our district.
And I told you these people are doing God's work, and I don't disagree with that.
Right,
But what do I say to the same teacher who is teaching a dual credit class who is grading essays all night, or the ELA teacher who is grading essays all night? They're doing the same thing.
No,
and
they're
not
not.
doing an IEP.
no, they are not,
And dual
because,
credit gets paid extra.
yeah.
They can.
They do.
And so so I'm not an English teacher, okay, number one, but every single test I give is a short answer test, okay? So there are at least 10 questions that they have to write at least a paragraph. Now, granted, I only teach part-time, but were I teaching full-time, my prep period would be adequate time for that because there's not a legally mandated time period that I have to have those tests graded. Now, I should be putting grades in at least one or two
I
a
agree.
week.
Yeah, the professionalism versus the legally mandated, I agree.
Exactly. So the idea that we're asking people, knowingly asking people to come in and take jobs where they are coming in knowing that they're going to have to do extra work for the same pay as I get and be held to state law and federal law, and then to just be told, well, you're a good person, we know you'll do that. That is why, and in spite, and I agree that PAC program is wonderful, and I have 2 paras in my classroom with those ERR kids who are working that program, and I've said, you come look at my computer, you look at my Google Drive, whatever you want, you can take and use. But we also have teachers in this district and around the state who are dual certified in special ed, who are getting special ed taken off their certification
And I know that does occur, yes.
because they will not come back into this position. So it is the belief that because we're a good person, because it has to get done, we're gonna do it on our own time,
That was,
that is what makes good people find new jobs.
but that was also part of the conversation, and part of the other conversation you did hit upon was, yeah, I gave you a discussion of the district's finances and where do we wanna spend the money?
Right,
The proposal you had put across the table was about $500,000
right,
on top of 2.9 million on the salary schedule, on top of 3,700 per day or per choice for every parental leave, on top of the small amount, and I acknowledge it's a
Right.
small amount for the 22 versus 30. And my conversation with you is, where do you wanna spend the money?
right.
So, and that's why I said, feel free to bring back
Yeah.
whatever you want, because recognizing that it's all one pie. So
Right.
it's, whatever we put over here isn't gonna be able to be used over there.
And I understand that, but I will tell you that what was heard from the special ed teachers that were watching last night is that we acknowledge you are having to work off-contract time, and we know you will continue to do that because you're a good person. And
But let's be
it-
honest, I think every teacher in this district probably puts in time off of contract time. I do.
I don't
I
think,
think that, I know teachers are prepping at home, there are teachers grading at home, there are
Right.
teachers who are,
but
and that's, I'm not saying that I want that to be the ideal.
right,
I'm just saying that I know that that's reality. I never like the word contract time or workday because I know a teacher's workday is longer than the time they are physically present at school. You're standing in the shower thinking about your lesson that you're gonna be doing. You're great, coming up with a quiz or an
Right.
essay. I understand that, and that is true.
but I didn't go into this job knowing that I would have 120 hours just, and that is probably a gross underestimation of how much time it would take if I had 40 kids on my caseload for 3 hours, 120 hours worth of work on top of teaching a class, creating the curriculum and grading. That's 52 and a half hours over a year that I will have to find somewhere on my own. So I want to move on because I have another question for you. You further said that you know that they're professional employees, and under the Fair Labor Standards Act, they will do what it takes to get the job done. I don't understand what that means or how that applies.
The Fair Labor Standards Act identifies multiple things relating to employment. One of them is minimum wage, that's not relevant here. The other is exempt versus non-exempt employees.
Okay,
A teacher is considered a professional employee under the Fair Labor Standards Act, which means that you truly, under federal law, do not have a workday. I, as an attorney, am a professional under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and I don't have a workday either. So what I was saying is, as a professional employee, we recognize that teachers, like other professionals, do what it takes to get the job done, because that's what federal law envisions. That's where that discussion comes from. It's a unique element of federal law that has a special subcategory for teachers. Don't know the history behind it, don't know why, but you're in the same category as I am, or an engineer, accountant, architect, doctor. Yeah, you're a professional.
okay.
So that was that
Okay,
discussion.
yeah, because I looked that up and I was like, I don't understand what
That's
this is
okay.
about, so. The last thing I just want to hit is that you mentioned last night on our discussion that sorry, now I can't even see. The amount of paperwork not getting done was the reason for the paperwork day that was put into the negotiated agreement. So that was 20, it's hard to think. So we were negotiating for 22, 23, so that would have been spring of 22, right? Around there. So the PEA brought that proposal. We fought for that proposal. In negotiations for the 23-24 school year, the district brought a proposal to take those days away from the resource room teachers and only give them to the ERR and DLP teachers, which already get a stipend. So we fought then and said, and we kept those days in, and I continued to fight for those days after negotiations through school years, in spite of some really condescending and pretty yucky emails from people about special ed teachers taking these days off. So I
do appreciate you're fighting for these days, and I recognize that. And the fact that you brought a proposal this year that relates to those days tells me the importance of those days. And I'm glad we were able to come up with a way, because you're right, if they get interrupted, what's the purpose of having the day?
Yeah.
I totally get that.
And I had a lot of people like that, and especially like looking forward to going to PV Tech.
And, oh, yeah. And I will express as well that I'm disappointed that you get those types of emails.
As I was.
Well, and I, just today, we went, Jonathan and I know Caitlin was there too, and we went to the legislative tour. And just the situation with special ed across the nation, across our state, is dire, right? I mean, it was very much a hot topic at the meeting today. It was very much a hot topic of what everyone feels like is a state issue that we need to push for next year when they look at their budgets in September. I think that everybody was on the same page. I know that Janelle Harris, I also talked to her last night about this, and when I was going over these things, and middle school and high school, I know is her next priority as far as looking at caseloads and all those things. And I know today that she even had texted and said that she plans to be here in a few, that she was going over all of the new boundaries, all the new caseloads, and all of those things. So that I think the biggest thing here is they need relief, not just the financial piece. I think it is truly having these kids in their class and the caseloads and those numbers, and I think that this was a true reflection of that she's working towards that. I think our state's working towards that. I just don't think everything can be fixed in a year, because we do have to watch maintenance of effort. We do have to look at those things. And so I think it's critical that we're looking at the big picture of more than just the financial piece, that this is how many kids are in your classroom, what's the caseloads look like, those things. And so I know that she's worked diligently on that, but it just is not something that can be fixed overnight. And like I say, this is just in a year and a half. I can only imagine what's going to happen the next year and a half.
Well, with that being said, we have a
counter
counter
to the
proposal or a
told you you
new
were gonna-
proposal or a number 7 again.
Told you were going to bring one, so yeah.
I didn't make a copy for myself, but I remember. No, it's fine. So this, last night we said the DLP staff received a stipend of $1,500. This morning I did get an email to correct that. That
Thank
was
you.
at 1,000.
Thank you for correcting that on the record. I had a note to
Oh,
come
yeah.
back to that when you got to it, that
So.
there's an error. I want to make sure that's taken care
So our proposal is to bump those 33 staff members up to $1,500 and to give the other 40 sped teachers a stipend of $1,000. That would be a total of $89,500, which is, I did the math, but now I lost it.
That's okay. I got you.
It's $59,500 increase.
I knew you were going to bring a counter to the rejection of the rejection, so it's okay.
So,
All right. Any questions on that, guys?
So, give me the total one more time, you said?
89,500,
Yeah.
which is an increase of 59,500.
And that's probably total, not just the increase.
right,
Right.
that'd be the total cost.
Okay.
That's, yes, and then the 50,
They're already
right,
getting 1,000.
Mhm, right.
Because I went to 500.
right. We're talking math again.
You're good.
rather. Yeah. Okay.
And you have a new pretty sheet too, I'm betting?
Well, I have plenty, but
We have like.
we have plenty of, we've, really kind of went back, looked at the numbers. But I kind of felt like before I would hand it, I'd like to have, you would look at that and see if that's something, because that will affect in the way that I propose. If we're truly saying no to this, that would project differently, because I know we only have one pot, and we've definitely covered that. And before I would bring something else, because you brought up several times now.
It's a package.
It's a package.
I would rather you give me the whole thing at once, rather than piecemeal.
And then we can still talk about it, Mike. I mean,
I'm
we can
gonna
say-
say, yeah, we're gonna talk about this.
Let's-
Don't-
Let's do this. Let's caucus for a minute.
Okay.
Because I want you to look at that.
You
You
know-
don't have to come back and say yes or no. I mean, you can have it.
And I will
I'll bring
prepare
this, you
2.14.
bring us a
Okay.
clean one, we go look at this, and we'll come back. How's that?
Perfect.
Thanks.
See if we can finish this in